What are the economic implications of a judge telling President Obama no on his attempt to shut down offshore drilling? Joining us now, former Congressman Barry Goldwater Jr. and economist Don Boudreaux and Ann Lee. Today's panel of freedom fighters. Professor Lee, to you first. You told one of my producers that the president should just declare the Gulf of Mexico to be an emergency and suspend the law and take over. You didn't really mean that, did you?
I do mean it, because we have a situation that no one knows how to control. This thing has been leaking for over 2 months at 100,000 barrels a day. It is destroying all the wildlife there. It could cause health problems for millions of people who live along the shores. It is an emergency, and I think in those cases you have to suspend the law in order to deal with an emergency.
Congressman Goldwater, the president can't suspend the law. He has an oath to uphold the law and to uphold the Constitution. She doesn't know what she's talking about.
Good morning, Judge. You're absolutely right. That's wishful thinking. Turn the Gulf area over to the federal government. They can't even run Amtrak, Medicare, Social Security. I don't know anything the government has that is run well. What we need is good regulation and enforcement and oversight by the Congress, but let the private sector do what they do best. And that they know the oil business. The federal government has no clue.
Professor Boudreaux, what are the economic consequences of a blanket moratorium in the Gulf of Mexico because one of the 33 wells that the government authorized became a disaster without basis, without evidence, without inspection? The government presumes to shut down the other 32.
Yeah, I mean, it throws a dagger into one of the major industries, the major industry in that region. I'm from South Louisiana. I'm from New Orleans, and I have a lot of friends in there who are very worried about this moratorium. They don't like it. And look, what Professor Lee said, this isn't Venezuela, this isn't Russia. We don't go around just, taking people's property just because an accident happened. It's a serious accident for sure, but just because, as she said, no one knows what to do, turning it over to the government isn't going to magically produce people who know what to do.
How about it? The government doesn't know how to do these things that Congressman Goldwater talked about. The government has never dealt with a well at 5,000 feet below the ocean, and the government doesn't have the constitutional power to suspend the laws it took an oath to uphold.
The government has overridden laws, suspended them in numerous historical precedents. Even as recent as George Bush, he had suspended habeas corpus on the war of terrorism, which arguably is not necessarily an emergency. So there is precedence for it if there's a dire situation.
Congressman Goldwater, the Supreme Court invalidated President Bush's suspension of habeas corpus. The president isn't a prince or a king. He's got to obey the same laws as the rest of us, right?
Well, right, but we need national policy. And national policy is lacking in this country. For instance, the Congress passed and authorized billions of dollars to use corn to create ethanol. Now that's destroying our relations with Mexico because the price of a tortilla has gone up. So don't tell me that the government and the Congress knows what's going on. They have no clue.
Would the three of you hang on for just a moment? We're right back with our freedom fighters and what the Constitution says about mercenaries. Stay with us.